I let them move into my vacation home rent-free after they fell behind. 6 months later, I went to check on the property. The locks were changed. My daughter-in-law opened a window and yelled, "You don't live here anymore. Go back to your old life." My son never came out. I drove away in silence. But what they didn't know was that the title was still in my name and I'd already spoken to a judge. I didn't sleep the night I drove back home from the lake house. I sat in the kitchen until the sun came up, just staring at the table. Couldn't believe what had happened. The woman I let into my life, the one who used to call me Dad with that fake sweet voice, had looked me in the eye and told me I didn't live there anymore. And David, my only son, he didn't even come outside. It wasn't just disrespect. It was betrayal. They didn't just forget who gave them that roof. They were acting like they owned it. Like I was the intruder. That's when something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to take back what was mine. And I was going to do it the right way. The legal way. But I wanted them to feel it. I wanted them to remember it. First thing I did was go into my file cabinet and pull out the deed. Title still in my name. Not shared. Not transferred. Not leased. I paid for that place in full 12 years ago. No mortgage. No liens. It was mine. Always had been. I started documenting everything. I printed off photos of my boat from before, when I used to take David fishing. I had photos of the furniture I'd bought, the grill I installed, even receipts for the repairs I'd done on the deck last summer. I printed screenshots of Jenna's Facebook posts, the ones showing off our lake house and our summer view. She even posted a photo of the welcome mat she'd bought that said, "Home Sweet Home." I added that too. Then I called my friend Harold again. The retired judge. "Harold," I said, "they locked me out." He didn't sound surprised. "Did you sign a lease?" "No." "Did you give them written permission to stay there long term?" "No. Just gave them the keys." He paused. "Then they're not tenants. They're guests. And guests can be removed." That's when he gave me the steps. Every single one. And I followed them. The next week, I drove back to the lake house. Not to confront them. Not to yell. Just to take photos. I didn't park in the driveway. I parked 2 lots down and walked through the trees. Took pictures from a distance. The new mailbox. The patio furniture that wasn't mine. The changes they'd made to the paint, the yard, even the dock, where they'd hung up a dumb sign that said Jenna and David's dock. Then I called the sheriff's office. I explained everything. I had proof of ownership, documentation that no lease was signed, and evidence of unauthorized changes to my property. The deputy I spoke with told me I had a strong civil case, and if they refused to leave, I could file for an unlawful detainer. So I did. The next morning, I went to the county courthouse and filed the paperwork. Cost me a little under $100. I had them served 3 days later. The look on Jenna's face when she opened the door for the process server, I wish I had a photo of it. She looked like someone had just told her the house was on fire. The court date was set for 3 weeks later. They tried to delay it. Claimed they were tenants. Claimed I gifted them the house. Tried to say I had told them they could make it their permanent home. Their attorney even suggested I was confused due to my age. But I wasn't confused. And I had everything. Receipts. Photos. Witnesses. And Harold, who wrote me a statement that I had consulted with him before they even moved in. The day of the hearing, David still wouldn't look at me. He sat at the defense table like a little boy lost in a courtroom he didn't understand. Jenna did all the talking. Loud, fake crying, trying to spin it like I'd offered them the home as a retirement gift. Saying I was now changing my mind because I was lonely and angry. But the judge didn't buy it. Not for a second. "Where's the deed?" he asked. I handed it over. "Whose name is on the title?" "Mine." "Do you have any documentation showing you transferred ownership?" "No, because I didn't." It was over in 20 minutes. The judge ruled in my favor. Gave them 10 days to vacate. Said if they didn't, I could file for a sheriff-assisted eviction. And if they caused any damage, I had the right to sue for restitution. I didn't say a word in the hallway afterward. Just walked past them. Jenna was still trying to talk. David just stared at the floor. 10 days later, I drove back out. They were gone. But the damage? It was there. They'd ripped out the built-in bookshelf I made. Took the ceiling fans. Broke the screen door. The grill was missing. So was the flat screen I'd left in the living room. Trash everywhere. Broken glass in the garage. a hole in the drywall behind where the couch used to be. I stood in the middle of it all. My chest burned. And that's when I decided I wasn't done yet. They didn't just try to steal from me. They vandalized my home. They used my kindness as a weapon. And they walked away thinking they got away with it. But I was going to make sure they felt every inch of what they did. Financially, personally, publicly. I took pictures of every broken thing in that house. Every scratch, every hole, every piece of junk they left behind. I filed it all. I made a new folder, Damaged by David and Jenna. Then I went to the police department and filed a report for property damage and theft. Gave them the list, TV, grill, fans, bookshelves, even my old tackle box. Everything they took that didn't belong to them. The officer said, "It's going to be hard to recover this, sir. But the damage report is solid. We'll forward it to the DA." I thanked him and went home. I didn't expect them to go to jail. That wasn't the point. I wanted records, paper trails. I wanted this to follow them. But then something happened that I didn't expect. I got a call from my bank. There had been multiple credit card applications using my name and address, submitted in the last 6 weeks. One even had my social security number on it. I froze. I'd been careful with my information. But one place I'd kept some older mail and personal files, tax returns, banking papers, was in the office room at the lake house. The one I used when I went out there to escape for weekends. The same room I'd let them use for storage. I pulled my credit report and almost passed out. 2 credit cards opened. One maxed out already, over $7,000 in charges. Jewelry, some online travel bookings, and a payment to something called Elite Lakeside Events. The other card was newer. Just a few hundred spent. But it was in my name. That's when the full weight hit me. They hadn't just used me. They'd stolen my identity. I drove straight to the sheriff's department with my folder and the credit reports. Filed a new report for identity theft. They took it seriously. It became a criminal investigation. About a week later, the detective called me. Told me they had traced the purchases on the card. The jewelry? Bought online, shipped to Jenna's sister's house in Columbia, Missouri. The travel booking? A weekend spa package under Jenna's name. He asked me, "Do you want to press charges?" I said absolutely. He paused. "Even though it's your son?" I didn't even blink. Especially because it's my son. Word spread fast after that. My neighbor at the lake, old Larry, called me and said, "Hey, you okay?" I heard about what Jenna and David did. Damn shame. Turns out Jenna's sister had been bragging about their new house and how they got the better deal. She didn't know the sheriff had visited her house. David's boss found out too. Small town. Word travels. A week later, I heard David had been let go from his job. Then Jenna showed up at my house. Unannounced. Middle of the day. Bangs on my front door like she owned the place. I opened it slowly. She looked rough. Hair a mess, face blotchy like she'd been crying for hours. "You need to stop," she snapped. "You're ruining our lives." I didn't say a word. "You got David fired. You called the cops. You're acting like we're strangers." I said, "You broke the law. You trashed my home. You stole from me. What do you expect me to do, send you a fruit basket?" Her voice cracked. "We thought you didn't care about that place anymore. You were never there. We thought you thought wrong." She started crying. "David's thinking about leaving. He says this is all too much. He said you were never really there for him anyway." That part hit hard, but I didn't let it show. I said he's an adult. He made his choices, and now he can deal with the results. Then I closed the door in her face. The next week, I got a letter from a lawyer. Jenna and David were trying to sue me for emotional distress. Said I abused my position, misled them about the house, and caused them psychological trauma. I laughed when I read it. Then I handed it to Harold. He read through it and said they don't have a leg to stand on. But if they want to fight, we'll fight. I told him, "Good. Let's bury them." I wasn't angry anymore. Now I was focused. Every move they made, I countered. I had a counterclaim ready for damages, legal fees, and identity theft restitution. I had the paper trail, the police reports, the photos, the receipts. And I had one more thing up my sleeve they didn't know about. The house they were living in now. It was under Jenna's sister's name, but Jenna's name was still on the lease agreement. And I just found out she hadn't paid the last 2 months of rent. I picked up the phone, called the landlord, and I said, "Would you like to know the kind of people you've got in your house right now?" The landlord was an older guy named Randy. I found his number on the lease paperwork that Jenna's sister had accidentally posted a photo of on Facebook a few months back. Sloppy. She was showing off the beautiful new kitchen and forgot to crop out the lease pin to the fridge behind her. I called Randy, introduced myself, and said I had something to share that he'd probably want to hear. At first, he was polite but cautious. But when I told him Jenna and David were living in his house, hadn't paid rent in 2 months, and were under criminal investigation for identity theft and property damage, his tone changed fast. "You've got to be kidding me," he said. "They told me they were starting a small business and just needed time. Seemed like decent folks." "Check their names," I said. "Call the sheriff's office if you don't believe me. And when you walk through that house, take pictures. Every corner." He thanked me, hung up, and I waited. 2 days later, Randy called me back. "You weren't lying," he said. "House is a mess. Trash everywhere. Couch cushions torn up. Found a dog in there. I didn't even allow pets." Jenna had told him the dog belonged to a friend, but Randy didn't care. He was furious. He said he was starting eviction paperwork. I asked him if he needed a witness to Jenna's history. He said if it comes to court, I might. I told him I'll be there. Then something strange happened. I started getting calls from blocked numbers. No one spoke. Just silence. Sometimes breathing. Sometimes a click and then nothing. It didn't feel random. Then one night, I came home and found a rock in my mailbox. Taped to it was a piece of notebook paper that said, in messy handwriting, "You ruined our lives. Now we ruin yours." I reported it to the police. Filed a harassment report. Bought security cameras the next day. Mounted 2 on the front porch and 1 facing the driveway. I wasn't scared, but I wanted evidence. 3 nights later, the cameras caught someone creeping near my garage. It was David. He didn't try to break in. He just stood there, looked around, lit a cigarette and flicked it toward the bushes, then walked off. I sent the footage to the detective handling the identity theft case. That's when the detective told me something I didn't expect. "We've traced more transactions to your son's IP address. Multiple logins to credit accounts under your name. He's being added as a suspect now, not just Jenna." He paused. "We'll be requesting a warrant." I didn't feel relief. I felt sick. Kept thinking, how did it get this far? But I knew the answer. I let it. I gave them the house. I stayed quiet when they ignored me. I let them believe they could take and take without ever giving anything back. That was over now. Then came the phone call that really twisted the knife. It was my cousin Janice. She lives in Kansas City and hadn't spoken to David in years. She said, "You're not going to believe what I saw on GoFundMe." Jenna had started a fundraiser. The title? "Help us fight back against an abusive family member trying to ruin our lives." The photo was of her and David sitting on a bench, holding hands, looking sad. In the description, she wrote that they were illegally evicted, financially destroyed, and emotionally broken by a vengeful older relative who's manipulating the legal system. She said they needed $15,000 for legal fees and housing. Claimed they were fighting homelessness caused by abuse. I read every word. Then I took screenshots. The worst part? They'd already raised over $2,400. Strangers had donated. Left comments like, "Stay strong," and "I believe in you." I lost it. For the first time in this whole mess, I punched the wall. Just once, hard enough to leave a mark. That's when I realized I wasn't just going to win this legally. I was going to expose them. I reached out to a friend from my mechanic days, Ronnie. He's retired now but does freelance investigations and background checks for businesses. Knows his way around social media, too. I gave him everything I had. He said, "You want this public?" I said, "I want every donor to know who they really gave money to." Ronnie dug deep. He found out Jenna had used one of the stolen credit cards to buy Facebook ads to promote the GoFundMe. He even got copies of the transactions and screenshots of her editing the ad from the same IP address flagged in the sheriff's investigation. He helped me put together a full report, and I submitted it to GoFundMe's fraud department. I didn't know what they'd do, but I hoped. 3 days later, the page was gone. Funds frozen. Donors notified. I heard from Janice again. She said one of the donors was her coworker who demanded their money back and started telling people Jenna was a scammer. Jenna's sister posted a vague status about haters and jealous people. Comments flooded in asking what was really going on. That night, Jenna tried calling me 3 times. I didn't answer. The next morning, David showed up at my front door. He looked exhausted. Lost weight. I sunken in. No car. Just standing there like he didn't know where else to go. I opened the door, looked at him. He said, "Dad, I need help." And I said, "No, you need consequences." Then I closed the door. David stood there on my porch, arms hanging like dead weight, shoulders sunken in. He looked like a kid who'd just been kicked out of school and didn't know where to go. I didn't say anything for a moment. I looked him in the eye, tried to find the son I raised. He said, "I don't know what to do anymore." I answered, "You should have thought about that 6 months ago when you watched your wife scream at me through a window while you stayed hiding inside like a coward." He flinched. But I didn't stop. "You took my kindness. You spit on it. Then you stole from me and tried to ruin my name. And now what, you want to come cry on my porch?" He just stood there. Then he said, "I didn't know Jenna was doing the credit card stuff." That made me laugh. "David," I said, "she might have clicked the buttons, but you lived in that house. You spent that money. You never once picked up the phone when I called. You knew." He looked down at his shoes. "I lost everything," he mumbled. "I lost my job. Jenna left. She's staying with her sister. Says I messed it all up." That surprised me for a second. I hadn't known they'd split. But then I remembered how she always looked out for herself first. It made sense. She saw the ship sinking and jumped. David said, "I was wrong, okay? I get it now." I sighed. "I don't think you do. Because it wasn't just a mistake, David. This wasn't forgetting to say thank you. This was betrayal. You tried to erase me." He was crying now, wiping his face with the sleeve of his hoodie. I stepped out onto the porch. "I can't let you back into my life right now. Maybe not ever. That's on you. But if you want a future, you better face everything that's coming." He said, "I'm scared." I nodded. "Good. Maybe you'll finally learn something." Then I closed the door, and I didn't look back. Over the next 3 months, things moved fast. The identity theft case became official. Both Jenna and David were charged. The evidence was airtight. Transactions, screenshots, even IP data linking them directly to my accounts. Jenna pled guilty first. Took a deal. Got 3 months in county jail, 2 years probation, ordered to pay restitution. David held out longer. Tried to claim he didn't understand what was happening. But the DA had him dead to rights. He ended up getting 6 months of house arrest, mandatory fraud counseling, and community service. The court also ordered them to pay me back everything. Over $11,000 in damages, legal costs, and stolen property. Of course, I knew I'd never see most of it. But that wasn't the point anymore. The fallout didn't stop there. Randy, the landlord, sued Jenna for property damage on his rental. He won easily. She owed him another few grand. And when Jenna's sister found out she was involved in the GoFundMe fraud, she kicked her out. Word was Jenna moved in with some guy she barely knew just to stay off the street. She deleted her Facebook. Her lifestyle, Instagram, went quiet. No more pictures of sunsets or glasses of wine. David moved back in with a friend from high school, someone he hadn't talked to in years. But the damage was done. He couldn't get another job in town. His name was tied to the police report. His background check lit up red. And every time someone searched for him online, that GoFundMe scam popped up. Eventually, he left town. No goodbye. No call. Just gone. As for me, I fixed up the lake house. Took my time. Replaced the broken screen door, patched the drywall, bought a new TV and grill. It was mine again. But I didn't move back in. I donated it. Not the house itself, but I partnered with a local group that helps veterans. Men like me who served and came back with nothing. I opened the place up as a temporary rest spot for guys who needed a break. A few weeks at the lake. Some quiet. Some space. One of the vets who stayed there said, "Feels like someone poured love into this place." That meant more to me than anything David or Jenna ever said. Some nights, I sit on my back porch with a beer in hand and think about it all. How close I came to losing everything, my home, my name, even my dignity. But I didn't. Because I fought back. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I got smart. And I let the truth do the rest. David and Jenna thought they were smarter than me. They thought because I was old, quiet, and kind, I was weak. They forgot who raised them. Who built everything they ever leaned on. Now they know. And I hope they remember it for the rest of their lives. The lake is still mine. The house is still mine. My name is still clean. But most of all, so is my conscience.